This story I'm about to tell has been on my mind since it happened, and I don't think it'll ever leave my memory. I live up north in a lovely, friendly town. I was an atheist and didn't believe in any spiritual or paranormal stuff, but this incident is what changed everything. I went to stay the night at my aunt's house, who lives in a big cabin in a wooded area with my grandpa. Grandpa used to be a pretty avid former hunter. I was getting everything from my mother's car, bags, pillows, blankets, and everything else. I went into the house, dropped everything on the couch, and got some water from the fridge. Later, my mum left to return home, and my brother was left with my aunt. I felt generous and helped clean the house and sweep some wood debris. I went outside and chopped some wood for the fire and stacked it up for my grandpa. I got up and turned around to go outside to help cook. But while I got up, I saw something standing. I couldn't tell if it was looking at me or if my mind was just playing tricks on me. I decided not to overthink it and went inside. I chopped up some potatoes for dinner because my aunt was making soup. Everything was going well, and I soon remembered about the figure I may have seen. A few hours later, I was staring up in the back, and then I heard what sounded like a person. They were saying, "Hey, you sir, can you help me with something real quick?" I was spooked and confused. My aunt lives in the middle of the woods, and it wasn't another house for another 20 or 30 miles. But I thought it may have been a camper, so I answered, "Hello, where are you?" I got no answer in return. I got a gut feeling that there was just something wrong, so I slowly backed away while staring where the voice was coming from. When I got to the door, I ran inside and locked it immediately because I couldn't take that type of chance. My aunt saw me, asked why I was inside and not outside doing what I was supposed to do. I didn't really acknowledge her or the question. I was so confused and afraid that I was frozen, just staring outside into the pitch black darkness. I soon snapped out of it when my aunt grabbed and shook my shoulder. I glanced at her and she asked, "What's wrong? Are you all right?" I didn't. I tried to say anything for a few more seconds, and when I did, I said, "Auntie, I think there's something outside." She responded with, "What?" in confusion. She looked at me like I was playing some sort of trick, but she knew I was not a man of games and tricks. I said, "I don't know. Something, someone, or something just asked me for help, and that's all." She asked, "Where?" I pointed into the darkness, which seemed like a void. I looked over to see my aunt back away 3 steps behind me with a blank expression. She yelled at me, "Get away from the door!" She grabbed my hand as we walked into her room with me, grabbed my brother, and got everyone in the same room. Once everyone was in, she locked the door and closed the blinds. She grabbed her sage quickly, sprinkled it around, and burned it. Since she's demonic and burning sage is said to clear negative energy, I kind of felt a little more comfortable after she did this. I asked her while trembling, "What's going on? Are we going to be okay?" My aunt seemed to have ignored me, so she went to my grandpa and whispered something into his ear. After, he looked terrified and stared at me. My aunt calmly walked over to me and said, "Honey, be honest with me. Did you see anyone?" I hesitated and said, "No, only a voice." She stood up and my grandpa's expression worsened. After standing there for a while, she told me, "Faintly so my brother wouldn't hear. You just encountered a skinwalker, dear." I got a pulse of fear in my body. I thought my body began shaking worse. A skinwalker, that's just a myth, a legend, but this wasn't easy to agree with or believe. I just heard a man's voice in the middle of nowhere in the dark. After an hour of waiting, my aunt got her rifle, helped my grandpa up, and told us to stay close to her. We went outside and quickly got into her car. We left everything there, and all I had was my phone in my pocket, which I'm using to tell the story today. We backed out of there and went through the roads and trails that took us out of there. My aunt drove like a bat out of hell. She stayed silent the whole way back to town. I was getting drowsy, but couldn't stop thinking about what we had just encountered. My little brother soon dozed off and fell asleep the whole ride. My aunt and grandpa stayed in our house for a couple of weeks after that. On the 5th week, she and my grandpa left, and before I could say anything, she gave me a protective crystal and some of her sage, just in case. A day after she left, we had never actually heard from her or my grandfather ever again.